For the first time in modern African history, a president has boldly proclaimed, "We will never beg for food again." Under the unwavering leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, more than 260 inmates have traded confinement for cultivation. They're no longer idle in their cells, they're farming. Already, 30 tons of wheat have been harvested on lands once declared barren. This isn't just reform, it's a revolution that's rippling across the entire African continent. Subscribe now to follow the rise of a new awakening Africa in a land once dismissed as barren and dependent. Something extraordinary is happening in Burkina Faso. Under the resolute leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, prisoners have been transformed, no longer locked away without purpose. They are planting wheat, maize, and hope. They hold the keys to their own cells, guard their own crops, and cultivate 10 hectares of farmland, projected to yield over 30 tons of wheat. What once drained the state's resources is now feeding it. Inmates who once felt discarded now declare, "We're not just growing food, we're growing our future." This isn't a fantasy, this is a national revolution, while other African leaders plead at international summits. Burkina Faso is reclaiming its dignity from the soil up, and the world must now ask, if prisoners can feed a nation, what's stopping the rest of Africa? When Captain Traoré stood before his nation and announced, "Burkina Faso will no longer beg for food," it wasn't a political soundbite. It was a declaration of war against hunger, against dependence, and against the legacy of colonial economics. And the first bullet was fired not from a gun, but from a plow inside prison walls. In a move that stunned both critics and supporters alike, Traoré unveiled a policy that redefined incarceration. No longer warehoused behind bars, inmates were summoned to become farmers of the nation's future. It was a daring gamble, turning prisons into agricultural centers, but it's already reshaping the nation's identity. At the Boro prison center, Minister of Justice Ardo Rodrigue Bella stood before golden fields of wheat, maize, and rice that now stretch toward the horizon. "This is the first time this facility has ever reached this level of agricultural output," he announced. "What you see here is the direct outcome of the president's initiative for food self-sufficiency." The stakes were unmistakable. With over 90% of Burkina Faso's population under 25 and youth unemployment on the rise, crime and reoffending were skyrocketing. Prisons became both a symbol of failure and an opportunity for transformation. Instead of feeding inmates with dwindling public funds, the state turned them into producers. To support this bold vision, a new law was passed. For every 1 month of agricultural work, an inmate's sentence is reduced by 3 months. This wasn't just a policy, it was a purpose, and the results have been astonishing. At Bapo Agricultural Prison, 80 inmates now farm full-time, growing staple crops throughout the dry season. As rains approach, another 180 prisoners from Bamo prison will be dispatched to scale operations even further. The government is also building a 500-seat detention and training facility, expanding the initiative with long-term vision. But what's truly revolutionary isn't just the output, it's the ownership. "Our fields have no fences," said Silas Sadu, Director General of the Prison Service. "The detainees themselves guard the crops, they hold the keys to their own rooms, and yet not a single prisoner has escaped. Because for the first time in their lives, they are not just inmates, they are contributors, are not criminals. They are farmers. They are not serving time, they are cultivating purpose, discipline, and redemption." As news of Captain Traoré's reforms spreads across Africa, it becomes clear this is not about headlines. This is about dignity restored even behind bars. This is about a leader who believes that sovereignty begins in the soil, and that no person, no matter how broken, is without potential. But while prisons were being turned into fertile fields of redemption, another quiet revolution was taking root across the rural heartlands of Burkina Faso. A silent, thundering march of machines. For decades, the African farmer has been depicted as a figure of struggle, bent under the unforgiving sun, tilling parched land with crude tools. Captain Ibrahim Traoré was determined to shatter that image. Under his leadership, Burkina Faso launched one of the boldest agricultural mechanization campaigns in modern African history. Farming would no longer be a symbol of suffering. It would become a mark of precision, pride, and prosperity. The government began distributing an unprecedented fleet of modern equipment: 400 tractors 239, tillers 710, agricultural tools and implements, motorized water pumps, and 714 motorcycles were not handed to agricultural extension officers as mere symbolic gestures. They were deployed as real instruments of emancipation, dispatched straight to long-ignored rural zones, empowering farmers who once relied entirely on hand hoes, now operating machines capable of accomplishing in hours what once demanded full days. And women, the backbone of Burkina Faso's subsistence agriculture, were trained in operating this machinery, shifting power not just toward the masses, but specifically to those who nourish the nation. Yet Captain Ibrahim Traoré understood that machinery alone could not suffice without fundamental agricultural inputs. That's why his government supported the initiative with groundbreaking subsidies, a national investment surpassing 78 billion CFA francs, crafted to radically reshape the agricultural sector. It brought a wave of vitality: 68,960 tons of fertilizer to revive depleted soil,